Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. My name is Dan Maldonado. I am your host. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I wanted so bad to do the radio voice today, like just for the hell of it, just see if anybody really knows, and be like, hey, everybody, welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. My name is Dan Maldonado. You know him as Timmy.
And if you did that, I was going to say Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
That's right.
Pretty soon we'll have to start talking about monster trucks because it always happens on Sunday.
Hey, speaking of, I'm going to Monster Jam at
You are
Ford
going to Monster
Field.
Jam?
Yeah, on February 27th. Do you know what else is happening on February 27th?
The first race in St. Pete of the IndyCar season is happening on the 27th.
That's
Am I
right.
right or wrong?
That's right.
Okay.
So in addition to the first race of the season recap, which we'll be doing, we may even be able to get some Monster Jam stuff.
They still have Gravedigger?
I have no idea. I've had these tickets for 2 years.
For 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was
COVID.
Canceled
Mhm.
because of COVID?
Yep.
Oh, is this a family event or
Mm-hmm.
is it?
Yes.
And can I ask how it originated? Like who wanted to go and all that good stuff?
Everybody wanted to go. They were all in because we went when the kids were younger and they were anxious to go and they were coming back. So my niece, her husband, her two daughters, my wife and I, and my baby girl, who was a younger baby girl back then, right when I bought these tickets, who's now 18. I still call baby girl,
we've gone once.
to get over that.
We've gone once, and I tell you, it's quite the spectacle.
It is.
It is, and they run on that small little area there at Ford Field, right? That's where we're going.
Yep.
And it's, we took the whole family and my daughter, who enjoys racing a lot,
Mhm.
but she was so nervous there that she was almost like nervous to the point of feeling ill because she was so nervous about the trucks inside there, the noise, the people.
Yeah.
So we had to go to a section off on the one wing there to, get away from folks, but that was good, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting.
You know what else is coming to Ford Field that I'm sort of interested in? And I only know this because I was there for one of the college football games, the bowl games, but the motocross series is coming as well. So
Yes.
MotoGP, or I guess it would be the
Mhm.
dirt bike series. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Ford Field has all of the things that I used to go to when I was a kid with my dad, right? Monster trucks, MotoGP. Do they have rodeo in there too?
I think I would think so.
used to-
They used
all
have
the
it at
stuff that we used
Palace.
to go
Maybe that
to-
goes to Little Caesars Arena.
Everything
Maybe
that we
goes-
used to go to at the Silver Dome, then at the Palace, is now at Ford Field.
Do you know what else was at Ford Field and
What's
is
that?
now in the Super Bowl?
What?
You don't know?
Matt Stafford.
There you go. I knew you'd pick up on that one.
It's a racing podcast. This is the podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get to it.
Yeah. Hey, we are a day late, of course, because we were at Daytona for the weekend. Went down Friday. We were there for the 24 hours. Tim, we watched a little over 18 hours of live on track activity. So we did spend some time sleeping in the front seat of the rental car.
Yes.
So-
Thank you, Stellantis.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Stellantis.
the accommodations.
Yep. So we did do that, but that's, I guess, maybe for another show. But this was my second trip to Daytona. This was your first. Give us your thoughts.
Oh, it was exciting. It was really good to see that race and to see 61 cars take the green flag and then run throughout the night. And it was a great atmosphere. I thought they did an excellent job.
It's busy right off the bat, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Going into turn one there is just chaotic all the time. And then the DPI cars coming through, and the field is just amazing to watch, and the speed that they have off of turn 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 5 going in the infield section there. It was awesome. And to have access to the pits and to see everything that goes on in there, in the garage area as well, with cars being fixed in the middle of the night. It was really good to see.
Yeah, it was fun. We had the garage access. We got to see how some of that comes together, and really how Daytona Speedway has to manage, right, the logistics of having 60 teams or 60 cars and all the team, trucks and everything that go along with that, and housing them in garages and giving them space to work and all that. So it was pretty cool to see that. Weather.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the cold.
I don't understand Florida cold. We live in Michigan, so it's cold here. That's a different level of cold. We were talking to some folks yesterday, and I guess the best way I could describe it is 30 degrees in Michigan is 30 degrees in Michigan, right? We're kind of used to it. I ride my bike in it, which you have no idea how I do that, right? But but 30 degrees in Florida is almost like a damp cold. So it just like penetrates you, like it was cold chilly to the bone. Yeah, I thought I was very well prepared for it, but just sitting there, right, is really where the problems happen. So
yeah, for sure. It was definitely chilly. The sun was good to see on Sunday, and that actually warmed things up. You just had to position yourself. Yeah, you had to position yourself in just the right manner in order to take advantage of the sun and not get too hot, as well as with the cold air coming through. So it was, quite the logistics on staying warm and staying not too hot too during the day.
Right. Yeah. Sunday morning when we went back to the track and we were in that infield section, that concourse there, I saw some silly little man walking, like pacing or whatever. So he must have just been trying to get warm and trying to get his joints.
That would have been me. I was so cold that I was just walking back and forth to keep the blood moving. It was my hands. I couldn't get them warm. Everything else seemed okay. I think I had 6 layers of clothes on. Yeah. And then by the time the end of the race, I had 1 layer of clothes on.
Yeah. So I was thin shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. I just kept discarding things.
Right. So we're an IndyCar Forward podcast. So I want to loop in a couple of observations that you and I made while we were there. In terms of the differences in track and track accommodations versus Indianapolis. Okay. So the first thing you and we agree in both of these cases, right? But we just want to call this out to some of our listeners who may have not been to Daytona or, are just familiar with Indy and IndyCar tracks. But in terms of that infield concourse area at Daytona, we agree that the pagoda area at Indianapolis is superior to Daytona.
Right? That is correct. Yes.
Big screen. The pagoda, of course, is iconic, and you see it a lot. The food areas, the cars that are on display, the souvenir areas,
the yard of bricks that runs through there.
Yeah, runs straight through there.
Yeah,
and we almost see like that auxiliary stage from NBC that's been in that section as well, where we saw Paul Tracy a couple years ago. This year, you and I, so we saw Mike Tirico there, and so we saw that. So we feel like that is Indy does a better job of that infield section, right? Which used to be the Formula One garages as well. They do things inside there as well. So we think that Indy does a better job there. Where Daytona is a lap ahead of Indianapolis is those concourses behind the grandstands.
Yeah, they were amazing. Yeah, and the sponsors and the vehicles and everything they had in there, as well as the view, the view you had from the start finish line, the way they had that all open so you could stand there and look around, far superior. But as we discussed, we think a lot of that has to do with space that Indianapolis traditionally did not have, but I think they are taking some of that over. And I can see Penske maybe updating some of the concourse area at Indianapolis to, try to catch up to what they've done at Daytona, which was really, really nice. Yeah,
it's a fan experience, I imagine, when it's full blown, right, for an NASCAR race, which, we kind of got the light addition to that. But I imagine that when it's full blown Daytona 500 or the 400 that goes on over 4th of July weekend, I imagine it's superior. I mean, they're getting people in and out of the bathrooms. They're getting people through the food lines, and there's a number of food choices there and bars and all that stuff. And then, of course, yeah, like you said, the sponsorship stuff and the branding that takes place all over there. And it's everybody, right? It's Sunoco, Toyota, Chevy,
Mhm.
the Advent, hospital, the healthcare that has a big presence there as well. So they really do a nice job with that. And it was pretty good to see. It was
Yeah.
pretty good to
And
see.
the other thing that I liked about being at the 24 hours was you could come in and out anytime you wanted. And the thing that is really different than Indianapolis is across the street, there's a ton of restaurants. There's a
Yes.
ton of the smoothie place, whatever you want to call it, is over there. So you could actually leave.
Well, let's
and go
call it
have
what it is. It's Smoothie King.
Okay. I had my first Smoothie King smoothie while I was
I know,
there,
we're
but
so proud of you.
I know it was really good. The mango strawberry, I believe. I get it if you go over there, but that was cool. You could walk across the street to get Starbucks, whatever you wanted to do. You could go across the street there, which you don't have that luxury at Indianapolis, right? It's one of those things where it's Georgetown Street, and across the street were all the parking and RVs and some vendors and things of that sort. So
Yeah,
I enjoyed that aspect of it too, which was different from the Indy 500 experience.
Yeah, the commercial experience outside of the Indy Motor Speedway is not anywhere near what that is for.
No.
But also, the size of the town too, and the fact that the town, I don't know if it still is, but I mean, when you and I were in high school, right? God, I never feel older when I say stuff like that. But you and I mean, back in the day, that was the destination for spring break, right? Daytona Beach. That's where a lot of folks that we went when we were in high school. That was a spring break destination. So it makes sense that their commercial capabilities there in terms of chain restaurants and other restaurants and that type of stuff is there. We love Speedway, Indiana, because of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but there's the level of commercial, restaurants and retail and things that are available isn't a fraction of what you see there.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not saying it's bad, so don't at
we're
us.
Just saying, we're just saying it's different.
Yeah, it's just different. So
different in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's it. I enjoyed that, Tim. I really did. I enjoyed that experience being out there. I mean, in terms of on track, maybe this is a little passive aggressive. We did, of course, petition IMSA and Daytona Speedway for media credentials. We didn't expect to get them. We didn't get them. But, so this show is really going to talk a little bit about our experiences there. We're going to talk a little bit about the finish, the class winners, and then we're going to move on to some other news and notes in IndyCar. But I think for us, you and I, sitting out in the stands, there's so much action going on, and it's 24 hours. We're just a humble little podcast. It's kind of hard for us to do kind of a race recap, a traditional race recap in that way. But we saw a lot of action out there, fireworks. I mean, the whole thing, it just, I can't believe how in that 24-hour period, it's probably 6 different races in that one stretch, right? Because of the time, number one, the weather changing, the darkness. We didn't have any rain this time, but I mean, it was just unbelievable. Everything that kind of comes by you when you're there.
Yeah, and I think you reminded me while you were talking, the other thing, if they had a few more screens that were out there for the fans sitting in the stands, that would have been nice. It was just hard to keep up with some of the action as you're sitting out there for hours on end. In the concourse, you could, watch the race on TVs all day long if you wanted to. But they didn't have a ton of screens out there for folks that were just sitting in the stands enjoying the racing.
Right. And I think you and I are the same in that it's nice to have the screen for when the cars aren't immediately in front of you, or if there's action going on elsewhere, because we still want to be able to see the live action on the track, but then kind of supplementing it with a good screen that's giving you, your leaders and your run, and some of the other things that are going on throughout there. And you're right. I mean, for us, Daytona had a screen which is turn 1 of the road course. And that was it for screens facing the grandstands. You could see things on the concourse, but then you'd miss the live on track, right? The pit stops and everything else. So there was also that one screen on the infield in that nice concourse area. But again, because of where that is, and it's kind of behind the trucks and the pits and, you know, and the garage areas and things that all kind of work there, you still can't see on track there either.
You're right. You can't.
Yeah. So you're right. Good point. Good point on that. So, hey, I want to move on. So I want to say first, listener, or maybe I should say watcher writes. There is no tech. This is in reference to our last episode where we attempted to break down the classes of cars that would be competing at the 24 hours.
So one of our watchers wrote into us.
Yeah, one of our watchers wrote into. Yeah, how you like that? There is no technical difference between GTD and GTD Pro. The only difference is the drivers. In GTD, one driver must be an amateur who doesn't derive his income from racing. There are some teams racing in GTD Pro who are employing an amateur driver, parenthetically, usually the team owner. By choosing to race in GTD Pro, they cannot win in the GTD category. Interesting. The only other difference is the minimum drive time for any one driver. Pro categories have lesser drive time. LMP3 and GTD require one amateur. So that comes to us by John Bulow through our YouTube channel. Thanks, John, for that. And I apologize if I butchered your name, but I appreciate you watching and caring enough to comment and put that in there. So we appreciate that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Prior to the start of the Rolex 24 weekend, the actual Roar, not the Roar before, but the actual weekend, there were two announcements. First, the class that was to be known as LMDH, which would have been the premier class in IMSA, will now be called GTP next year in 2023. This is a historic label for the top class of cars. Second announcement was Ford will enter a GT3 Mustang in 2024. So that's a couple of years out. And they're going to do that in partnership with Multimatic. And if that name is familiar to you, Multimatic is the organization out of Canada that does engineering. Basically, I believe that Multimatic is the team that did the engineering and the support and kind of the running of the Mazda DPI program that ceased at the end of last year with a win at the Petit Le Mans.
I love Canada.
Yeah, so do I. I love Canada. Another announcement was in regards to the GTP entries by Porsche and Audi. They will run twin turbo V8s. All right, stay with me. So recall Ford's GT program with Ganassi several years ago ran an EcoBoost V6. This announcement with Ford coming in 2024 says they're going to run a 5-liter V8. Okay. IndyCar and Formula One run V6 engines as well. So you always hear this notion that the concepts on the racetrack should translate to the road, right? How else are these manufacturers going to be able to afford to do one thing? And, you know, how do you justify to shareholders, right? How does this translate to the roads? These V8 cars translate to the road to me?
It's got to be performance cars or something in their trucks. So I don't.
It's hard, right?
Yeah, it's
because they're not. They're not putting an F-150 out there. It's not a Silverado that's running out there.
Yeah, I know. I'm unsure how that kind of translates into the passenger vehicles, which are now all SUVs, except for the Mustang.
Right. Camaro
really. Yeah, it's got to be something with heavy duty pickups, but those are diesel. I don't
my head. Yeah. Scratching my head just like you.
If someone knows the answer, please
send it in. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, so a little bit of research. According to an ABC News article entitled Loud, Powerful, Visceral, What Happens to the V8 Engine in an Electric Car World? 15.3% of vehicles registered in 2020 had a V8 engine. For the most part, those vehicles were heavy-duty trucks, full-size pickups, full-size SUVs, and super premium luxury cars. Okay. This is at the same time Ford, and I'm just picking on these two because these were the announcements, right? At the same time, Ford has announced plans to increase capacity of electric vehicles to 600,000 units globally by 2023. 2023 for an auto company is right around the corner, right? It's February 2022.
Yeah.
So
Is that
it's right
fully
there.
electric or is that just some
That's-
electric?
That's fully electric.
Wow.
Right. VW Group, who is of course the parent for Audi and Porsche, have announced that half of their lineup will be electric by 2030. So that's a little further down the street. Okay. Half doesn't exactly give you anything. So I put into the Mr. Google. So Mr. Google tells me that in 2020, Volkswagen delivered 9.3 million vehicles. That was down, of course, from the year before. But so if that's the meathead math you're doing, you're looking at between 4 and 5 million vehicles that Volkswagen Group will produce in 2030 that will be full electric.
So are you telling me we're shifting direction on our podcast and we should maybe start covering Formula E?
No. First, because that doesn't do it for me. Second, because our dear friend Billy would stop listening to us and probably disown us if we go down the electric car route. Because
I know he probably would,
right? His disdain. So I'm starting to warm
I think
up.
I've seen. Hold on, I think I've seen text messages about electric vehicles between the group a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm starting to warm up a bit to electrification for what I do in my full-time job that helps support this gig. I could do a hybrid or I could do a plug-in. I could do something like that. I couldn't go full electrification because of what I do. I drive too many miles. Don't at me. I drive too many miles, right? There's nothing out there that I really enjoy that's going to get me to Indianapolis in one sitting. Okay. There's not a lot out there that are going to get me to areas of Chicago that I drive through in one sitting. So don't at me. Okay. Yeah, I know most of your daily drives are 40 miles. Yeah, that works for that. But I drive to Indianapolis, I drive to Chicago, I drive to Cincy, I drive to Lexington. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent here.
Well, so the infrastructure is coming and the battery life is going to get better. So I think over time you will be able to do what you do in a fully electric vehicle.
In time.
Yep.
So I'm warming to this. No offense to Formula E or Extreme E, which you mentioned, right? But I like loud and powerful race cars. You agree?
Yeah, and I heard them for 24 hours.
Yes. How cool that is.
It was so
right.
good.
So what's the point?
And a backfire every once in a while.
Yeah.
You got to love that.
Yeah. So the point that I'm getting to here is I'm surprised that these manufacturers are going V8 and they're not at least going V6 or they're not going to 4-cylinder. Because as you and I discussed, we were looking at some of those Cadillacs and some of those cars that were in the infield that were out there on display. Most of these cars today are 2-point-something turbo 4-cylinders. Right? Why not?
Yeah. I'm happy they're actually doing the V8. They have a plan for sure. And I'm
not, it makes no sense to me.
That's what a lot of motorsports fans want to see, but I maybe it's development on their engines for their full-size trucks. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, there you go. If you know, please write it into us. Tweet it at us. Hey, put it on our YouTube comments or however you get it to us. But let us know if you know. Let us know. I'm scratching my head. I can't figure that out. So, I want before we kick off this review of the class winners, I want to say congratulations to Magnus Racing on their second place in class.
Yeah.
Why am I calling out Magnus Racing? Because that is the hat that Tim normally wears. Not wearing it today, of course. So thank you for that. That hit Tim normally.
That little blue spot on the screen, Dan. That's the hat.
There it is.
So if you look like right.
Yep.
There you go. Where my pen is. That's the Magnus.
Pushing everybody to YouTube. Yeah, we're a YouTube podcast now.
Yeah.
I always like to, bust your chops a little bit that it's a Lewis Hamilton hat because it's number 44. So.
I know you always try to say it's Lewis Hamilton, but it's not. It's Magnus Racing, and Magnus Racing came through. Yes. I think it's their first podium for the 24 hours, is what I believe. Yep. And actually came home with a shirt for Magnus Racing. So I won't be wearing that. Someone in my household will. Right. And he's super excited about it. It's a really cool shirt. So support Magnus Racing.
That's cool. So starting in I don't want to say for real now, but
You're saying for real now?
Yeah,
Like
I'm saying real now.
that was like not that was not an important part of the show. Okay. All right.
So
Let's get to the
first,
real stuff.
yeah, first, congratulations to Meyer Shank Racing. This was a 10-year spread between their Rolex 24 wins. It's been a good year for Shank. You know, they're still, I believe, riding high on their unexpected, I'm calling it unexpected Indy 500 victory. That of course delivered a record tying 4th Indy 500 to Elio Castroneves. Tim, I like this team.
I like this team as well.
Yeah.
I just like the organization and the route they took to be, you know, a high profile team, not only in IMSA, but also in IndyCar now, and how they've got a great driver lineup in IndyCar. And they had a great driver lineup at the 24 hours with Elio and Simon Pagenaud. So they definitely took it, and it didn't look early in that race. It did not look like they were going to be there.
It was
right.
It looks rough for all of for the Acuras. Definitely at the start of that race, Cadillac had it in hand, it seemed. It was in hand up until midnight, right? I mean, the 02 Cadillac, which was the winning livery, in my opinion, was pulling out in the hands of Kevin Magnussen. And I suppose when we finally got up and got back to the track, I mean, it was kind of a surprise to us that the Cadillacs were struggling the way they did. I saw electrical issue. I saw fuel pump.
I think it was fuel pump was a big thing.
Yeah. So
it was Cadillacs.
So you mentioned the drivers.
It looked like they had it in hand.
Yeah. And so let me go back to Shank. So scrappy is how I would definitely describe them, right? They're a little team that don't know that they're a little team. I think they show up to compete. I think they compete well. Certainly in IMSA, certainly in IndyCar, they've proven that. I think they're going to have a good year in both this year. And it's hard not to root for them. It really is.
Yeah, and they have some good backing with AutoNation and SiriusXM, which, you know, helps fund those teams. And man, they're putting on a show for them.
Yeah. So Castroneves, Simon Pagenaud, as you mentioned, Tom Blomqvist, and Oliver Jarvis. So congratulations to you guys.
We're going to bring up ESPN right now.
I can. So ESPN's crawl had, you know, their their lead, right? They call it the lead. And they had on there, you know, Elio Castroneves wins the Rolex 24, right? And it's kind of like, well, yeah, kind of. But, you know, can we at least acknowledge he was one of 4 drivers who won the Rolex 24? I mean, I get he's the marquee name. He's the name that I think even just casual race car, you know, racing fans will kind of, you know, understand and see and know. But it was a team effort here.
Yes, it was. Yeah. The team should have been named, plus all the drivers should have been named, in my opinion.
I agree.
They have some work to do over there.
Yeah. The number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing Acura took second. Those pilots were Alexander Rossi, your favorite, Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, and Will Stevens. This was the defending champions from 2021. So good result there. I like the livery of that car too. I know I spend a lot of time talking about car liveries, but the black with that electric blue like that, I like that.
It's not your favorite though. We know that.
It isn't. Sure. It's the 02 Cadillac.
Did you say Rossi was my favorite? Is that what I heard
you're a big fan of Alexander.
I love Rossi.
Yeah. We talked about this too. We, you know, at the start of this race, it really looked like the Cadillacs had to measure the DPI field.
Totally.
Yeah, I know you also agreed that the 02 Cadillac was the one that was going to deliver the victory. When we took our first break at around midnight, the 02 Cadillac was knifing through the field at the hands of Kevin Magnussen. But it's a 24-hour race. And after, I guess, we woke up and got ourselves back together, the 02 was beset with fuel pump issues.
I don't think it was long after we left the track that happened.
You're right. So I probably, because we were watching it in the car on the Mac.
We were, well, some of us were.
You were. I was sleeping, right? You were,
and we weren't far from the track, right? We were
carbon
just
monoxide
sitting there in turn 4 of the oval.
Right.
And I was researching carbon monoxide poisoning. Oh man.
So, in the 01 Ganassi Cadillac had an electrical issue. The number 48 Action Express which is the team with Jimmy Johnson, tangled with a back marker. So kind of a bummer for them, but it's definitely going to be a good season nonetheless. So Acura is here to win. Similar to IndyCar, Acura seems to get great gas mileage, gets great fuel mileage out there, and they're in the hands of very smart drivers. So look out.
Talking about those Hondas for sure.
Yeah. One observation I want to make, especially with this one, like you mentioned, 61 cars on track. Those DPI cars come through the field like a city ambulance, right? With their lights on. I mean,
they do.
With
flashing
hesitation.
lights. And yes. Knifing through.
Yeah. So
it's cool to see. And the
is.
acceleration off the corners, like you had mentioned before we went, it was amazing.
Yeah. The closing rates and then the takeoff out of the corners versus the other classes is astounding. So
yeah, if you haven't seen it, you got to go.
Yeah. We're big advocates of that. LMP2 class winners is the Dragon Speed USA team. You must have known this super team of Devlin DeFrancesco, Colton Herta, Pato O'Ward, and Eric Lutz was going to be hot because they delivered. Great job by them. This was your winning livery, wasn't it?
I loved it. Yeah. Super bright. You could see where they were anywhere on the track. And Kamoa was a huge sponsor as well. And I think there's a lot.
Sponsor.
They were huge. They were on the whole side of the car. Ugh. Devlin brought them over. So it looked good.
Yeah. According to motorsport.com, this was the third Rolex 24 hours win in 4 years. For Pato O'Ward, it was the second Rolex 24 win in 3 starts. For Colton Herta, it was his second win in 4 starts. And for Devlin, it was his first win in 4 starts. Eric Lutz, first win in 12 starts. So this is quite a turnaround for the team that was hammered early by pit speed violations, right? I believe they had maybe a clutch issue or something there that was leading them to, picking up pit road penalties, and they overcame all that. They were down 3 laps and came back in the evening hours while all of us were fast asleep. They were doing their thing and they were on the lead lap come the morning. Yeah. Second place LMP2 was the team of Team Nederland, anchored by Renus VK in that lineup, which included team boss Fritz Van Eerd, whose Jumbo supermarket chain. That's like, you like that car, the Jumbo car. I do like that car. Yeah. I like that car for many reasons. And the one in particular I like it is because they also sponsor a cycling team. And you and I are cyclists. And so therefore, that's one of the things that I like to see. Yeah. So in addition to cycling, Jumbo also sponsors Max Verstappen. So there's that. Guido Vandergaard and again, I apologize if I'm getting his names wrong, and Dylan Murray round out that driver field for the second place Team Nederland. I did want to talk a little bit about Dragon Speed. They got passed with like 20 minutes to go, or in the pit stop, in that final pit stops. And Colton Herta drove that Dragon Speed car by the second place one in order to get that victory there. So there was a lot of work to be done, even in the morning hours and late afternoon hours, or early afternoon hours, I should say, to get that car in victory lane, and they made it happen. Yeah. Little bump and run. Yeah. Again, right. More proof that Colton Herta is amazing behind the wheel of whatever it is. Exactly. Right? Yep. LMP3, congrats to Raleigh Motorsports and drivers Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, Kay Manberlo, and Michael Cooper. Great win to collect a Rolex after dodging what could have been a serious issue when they had a puncture in the morning. GTD Pro, Pfaff Motorsports, Porsche, congratulations. Matt Campbell, Matthew Jaminet, and Felipe Nasser. You remember that name from IndyCar? Yes, definitely do. Yeah. GTD Wright Motorsports, Porsche 911, Ryan Hardwick, Zachary Robichon, Jan Halen, Richard Lights. Congratulations. So the Porsches swept the GTD categories. Both of them. Yeah. The Pro and the regular GTD. So good for Porsche. Yeah. And those two classes make up the largest part of that field.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I didn't put this in the notes. So good for the Porsches. They did a great job. BMW seemed to be a little behind. I don't want to say ill prepared, but they seem to be a little behind.
Mm-hmm.
Mercedes was there. Aston Martin was good. I know, Heart of Racing had kind of an unfortunate incident there. Got caught up in a wreck that was a little bit more. They got hit by an LMP3 when he was spun there. So Aston was there. BMW kind of behind, and
Corvette was behind as well.
Corvette was, but man, those Corvettes are loud.
Mm-hmm.
Make a ton of noise out there. Yeah.
I love when they jam through the gears.
Yeah. And then of course the Vassar Sullivan Lexus out there too. So it was good to see. But yeah, Porsche had
doesn't make a sound at all.
No.
Like,
yeah,
super
none.
Quiet coming through. Yeah.
Yep,
interesting the way those are engineered and how they're totally different, but competing in the same series.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to mention about this is how long, Dan, I'm going to ask you a question. How long does it take for one of these cars to do a brake change?
Well, we knew one team accomplished the brake change during the race in 3 minutes. I don't remember the team. Did it in 3 minutes.
3 minutes on the pit lane during a normal pit stop, took the tires off, changed the brakes, put the tires back on, changed the driver, fueled it up, and left.
That is crazy, isn't it?
That was crazy. We were sitting in the stands when that was going on. And they're like, oh, yeah, they're changing the brakes. Should be about 3 minutes. And I was like, really? Do you got to kind of, I don't know how that works. It's an engineering feat.
Yeah, we did the Scooby and Shaggy double take. We were like, when we looked at each other, they said 3 minutes. We're like, what? Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Just to think on a passenger vehicle, change your brakes in 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's crazy.
All right.
What do you think about it? I can't fuel up my electric car in 3 minutes, and I can't even put regular gas in my car in 3 minutes.
But heck, new wheels, new brakes, and a full fuel load.
Yep.
See ya. Yeah, it was really cool to see.
Hey,
I forget what team it was too, but
yeah, I forget.
Yeah.
So ordering the field during a yellow flag. I guess I don't remember this from my first trip to Daytona, and I certainly don't remember this from watching it on TV, but it might be because you go to commercial or you're going to do something else, right, when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But man, WTF takes so long. It was insane.
61 cars and 5 different classes or 6 different classes. So you gotta,
so you're onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
So IMSA.
So now, so here's what I realized while that was going on. When I was every time I turned into the La Petite, last year, I was like, they're always at yellow. They're always at yellow. Now I know.
Now you know. There you go. That's why it'll take so long to reorder these cars. So
go ahead.
Our friends at IMSA have provided via their website the full course yellow procedures. I'm a fan of passive aggressive, not really. This document this is what it says. This document is a description in layman's terms of the typical full course yellow process. The specific regulations are addressed in the respective series SSR, the SR of the event, or the instructions of the race director, race control. This basically says, we're going to attempt to tell you what we do during yellow flags, but we know what we're doing, right? So the process, full course yellow announcement. Pits are closed. Safety car picks up the overall leader. All cars pack up behind safety car in current running order. Then you get the pass around. Only cars that have their class leader behind them in the pack up are eligible, which means
makes sense,
right? Most of these cases, right? DPI gets so strung out. Yeah.
You're almost about ready to go lap down, but you're not. So you go around to follow behind the leaders.
Yep. The move around or the pass around moves eligible cars around the safety car and back to the rear of the pack up, remaining in running order. Okay. Then the pits open first for DPI, LMP2, second for GTLM, GTD, and third for all cars. Final wave by, only cars that have their class leader behind them in the pack up are eligible. Moves eligible cars around the safety car and back to the end. Final wave by, cars are permitted to pit.
Yeah, you have to do that for 5 classes.
God,
Let 'em by.
that's a lot. That is a
Mhm.
lot. And it's 5 classes and 61 cars.
Mhm.
So there you have it. I'm, that comes courtesy of the IMSA website. So that takes a
However,
long time. We noticed that. Go ahead.
and they do that only if it's been over an hour since the last yellow, is what I understood when we were sitting there. If it was within a certain time frame of the last yellow, they don't follow the same rules. So that's a little different. It's like a hybrid um, a yellow flag situation. So yeah, there were some long yellows. But if you gotta, go to the bathroom or do what you got to do at the race, you have plenty of time to do that, or get a different vantage point. You could do it during the yellow and probably not miss any of the action.
Yeah, or walk from turn 1 in the infield road course at Daytona to the turn 4 exit tunnel to the infield, all while the yellow flag is still out for what looks like a very simple spin.
Yeah. How many miles did we walk in total?
11 on Saturday.
11?
Yep, 11 miles.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I can feel it a little bit.
Hey, finishing up Michelin Pilot Challenge, Robert Wickens teamed with fellow Canadian Mark Wilkins to pilot the Brian Herta Autosport number 33 Hyundai to an outstanding 3rd place podium finish in the touring class category. Tim, this is amazing.
It is amazing.
This is amazing. For Robert to pilot a specially equipped Hyundai for Brian Herta Motorsports or Autosport using hand controls and piloting that car. So it's great to see him back in racing. I don't care what it is. It's great to see him back racing. And there is no shortage of grit and gristle out of this guy, right? I mean, he's on it. So it'll be nice. I think it'll also draw a little bit of attention to that part of the series, and we'll get a chance to keep an eye on how Robbie does.
Mm-hmm.
IndyCar news and notes.
All right, moving on.
Yeah,
From
first
the 24 hours.
Yeah, first on-track testing of the 2023 regulation engines will take place in March. The new regs, if you remember, are a higher displacement from 2.2 to 2.4 V6, as well as an energy recovery system, ERS. Also, and this is a surprise to me, I know we talked about it. I know Scott Dixon talked about it, of course. There's going to be a revised transmission bell housing and transmission itself to help remove some of the increased weight that the new regulations will bring. However, supply chain issues could affect delivery of some of the new components, particularly related to the revised cooling components. So I guess stay tuned. But March is, a month away.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, they're going to try to do everything they can to save a little bit of weight on these vehicles.
They have
Because,
to.
You've heard from Scott Dixon most recently talking about the weight and how they're a little sluggish and they're not as fast as they could be and all that. So, kudos to finding ways to save weight when you're adding the ERS system that's going to add weight.
Yeah, almost suggesting that it wasn't a Premier Series vehicle anymore. I love Scott.
Almost, and I sent you a screenshot of that saying, "Did he just say that?"
Yes,
and
he
you
did.
said,
"Yes, he did."
And why is he allowed to say that?
Because he's Scott Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So he can say it.
Series champion multiple times.
Foyt driver Kyle Kirkwood, his newly announced teammate Tatiana Calderon, and the Meyer Shank combo of Castro Neves and Pagano participated in a test at Sebring. Young Mr. Kirkwood topped the timesheets, albeit unofficially. He was, of course, very complimentary of the effort put forward by the Foyt team and related it favorably to his last test that was in an Andretti Autosport Honda.
Mm-hmm. He did. He totally did.
Good job, Kyle.
And just to iterate, he is the current Indy Lights champion.
He is.
And he's with Foyt. Yeah. What was it? His words were something, there was very little difference
Very little
between
difference.
driving the Andretti Autosport IndyCar versus driving the Foyt
Mhm.
IndyCar. Well, I can't wait till St. Pete to see how that transcends into the race.
Me too.
And qualifying and all
Can't
that
wait.
good stuff that goes on.
Haven't seen anything related to engineering or bolstering the engineering department at Foyt. Race is 3 weeks away. That car has its engineering philosophy set. We'll see what it looks like. We'll see how they do.
Yep.
That's
why they race.
Yep. Ganassi Racing confirmed. This was a while ago, but this was after our last pod. Ganassi Racing confirmed that Tony Kanaan will be in a fifth car for the Indy 500. If you recall, Kanaan was on deck as an oval-only driver of the number 48 Dallara that would be occupied by Jimmy Johnson. With Jimmy now doing a full season, that kind of had the potential to sideline Kanaan. So, kudos to Chip Ganassi for putting this immensely popular driver in a car for at least the Indy 500. We don't know what that means for the other ovals. So for Texas or Iowa or Gateway.
Correct. It'll be good to see Tony again.
Yeah. You feel good about that, don't you?
I like that. I really like
Yeah.
it. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's not sitting on the sideline for the Indy 500 or had to go to some other team. I think it's good that Chip put him up in that car. And I think he'll bring a lot of, insight like he always does to these events. And he's a fan favorite. The crowd goes wild when he gets cheered on. So that brings the field for Indy 500 way high. It's going to be a lot of cars. So there's going to be some bumping. So look out.
Yeah, 35, 36, maybe. I think there's some limitations because I think Honda's getting close to their top end of engines that they can supply. I think Chevy, I keep wanting to say GM. Chevy has a little bit more capacity than Honda does right now, but in either case, with just two engine suppliers for now, I think we're, I think 35, 36 is probably the most we're going to see.
I'm going to bump it up a couple. I think we'll be a little bit more. Hopefully,
I think it'll be 38?
Find some engine. Yeah, I'm hoping.
Do the math. Do the math before May. You don't have to do it now.
All right. I was trying to do it in my head right now, and I was like,
do the math before May. Well. Yeah.
I'll do the math.
Yeah. So that's what we got. I'm excited. We're 3 weeks away from IndyCar starting at St. Pete. I can't wait. I'm excited. So we are in.
We're only 3 weeks away.
Yeah. So we're in. Yeah, technically 3.5. So
we're trying to do a couple of shows before then, right?
We're trying to do a couple of shows. IndyCar kicks off February 27th with St. Pete. Between now and then, we'll have a show on the 14th, which we're hoping to have a guest with us on the 14th. And I think listeners will like this guest.
Yeah, he's pretty much committed. So we're excited to have him on.
And I love the times he gave us. They actually work better for you and I.
Yeah, they're really good times.
And we were trying to accommodate him otherwise. So there you have it. And then we'll kick off.
Are we allowed to hint who he is?
No.
All right. No hints.
We'll see. We'll do a season kickoff on February 21st. So we'll do, a couple of shows here on the 14th and then one on the 21st and then the 28th, which is our normal run at this thing for the St. Pete review. So
we still have to do our picks.
Yeah, we'll do that on the 21st.
All right.
Yeah. We'll do the top 10 that's accurate by me, and then you'll put whatever you want into yours.
Yeah.
You'll just show up and throw some names down.
No, there'll be a little more work than that. That one for sure.
So nonetheless, stay tuned to our social media channels for updates on shows and our guest. We knocked that thing out. I think that's going to be great with him, so. And
if any of the fans or any of the listeners have questions about the 24 hours, just shoot us an email or shoot us anything in our social media and we'll answer it.
Yeah, if we can, for sure. So, but that wraps up this episode of the Turn 4 podcast. Be sure to subscribe using your favorite podcast app. If you like the show and listen on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a review. Engage with us on Twitter our website or our YouTube channel. All links in the show notes. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Yeah, and one more place, Instagram. We're out there too.
Oh yeah, Instagram now too. You're right. So
all right,
we'll put that in the show notes too. So thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it.
All right. Good night.